that people want to go into another neighborhood to make a living. The only reason anyone goes into another neighborhood, such as the one he's describing, to make a living is because they're the lowest people on the ladder themselves. And that's the only niche that they can even find anyway. So it isn't that they're dying to go in and exploit anyone. They're actually, up against the wall themselves. Which is what I think people don't know. So the reason he met these kinds of people is anyone who was a Rockefeller or a Heinz from Heinz Ketchup or something like that was not going in to own a pawn shop in Harlem. So these people were marginal people themselves. You say, well, why don't they stay in their own marginal world? Well, if there were some people in that environment who could be good competitors, unfortunately capitalism is competitive, I'm sure they wouldn't have been able to do that either. They would have to have swept streets or shoveled debris out of a work site someplace. So everything, unfortunately, is competition. But these people were the pawnbrokers, landlords, and the grocery store owners in Harlem, a lot of them. So he was surprised at how different their children were. And I think you'll find throughout this book, and we will get a picture, you see, the very people that he's describing here in The Chosen, we'll get a picture of them from the inside. And you'll see that in The Chosen, which describes a community in Brooklyn, a Jewish community in Brooklyn, that these people are nothing like the external image of them. They're full of tenderness, softness, gentleness, and all of what a Christian conceives of as being the Christian virtues. Maybe it's only towards each other that they are feeling those things. It's hard to measure. But stereotypes tend to be wrong, and that's what Baldwin finds out here. So I think Baldwin owes most of his career to Jewish people. The fact that he mixed with Jewish people in high school, went to the university with them, lived with them as lovers, found them in the publishing business who would promote his work and so on. I think, in fact, that he, above almost anyone else you can imagine, benefited from that interrelationship. And that's one of the reasons he doesn't, he's not so easily seducible by the black Muslims, who have a certain Muslim extremism on certain subjects of that kind. So he's more fair-minded as far as his evaluation. Yeah, if you look at the civil rights struggle, whatever the people who were trying to work up emotions in the hood, if you want to call it that, were saying, the people who were most involved in the NAACP, aside from Afro-Americans, were Jewish people. And the people who went on the freedom rides in the South, the people that were thrown in the pit in Mississippi, were Jewish people who took the part of black people and had done for a long time, over 50, 60 years, from maybe the 1910s to the 1980s, when all this hatred that was fanned by other forces began to separate the two communities in some way. But most, any successful Afro-American in the entertainment world and in the literary world and so on will admit that those are the people who treated them with the most generosity. And Baldwin knows it himself, because here he has, when he's very young, this tremendous argument with his father, who's just working off of Christian doctrine and hasn't experienced the world that even James Baldwin in his high school has experienced. My best friend in high school was Jewish, he says on page 37 at the top. He came to our house once, and his father has a bad reaction to that. So where's the racism? What side is practicing the racism here? he came to our house, and after my father asked, "Is he a Christian?" By which he meant, is he saved? I really do not know whether my answer came out of innocence or venom, but I said, no, he's Jewish. My father slammed me across the face with his head. And in that moment, everything flooded back. So he's got as much problem Baldwin has with his father as with his environment. I don't have an answer to this. I'm just pointing out he's an honest person here about the situation he's facing. And all the hatred